The EU plans to replace the bulk of Russian gas imports by the end of the year. But despite its reserves filling up quickly, the bloc's chances of avoiding energy shortages could depend on the severity of the winter. If everything goes well, reserves in Germany are high, and if we have a bit of luck with the weather, we have a chance of getting through the winter comfortably, Germany's economy minister Robert Habeck said recently. The key may lie in the word if. The issue of limited energy supply strikes in various guises, the most politically potent perhaps being the threat of energy rationing and cold winter nights. Many are asking, can Europe avoid a winter of shortages after Russia has cut supplies of gas? One way of doing so is building up gas reserves, another is cutting consumption. But with prices sky high and a cost of living crisis affecting a growing number of Europeans, the prospects of doing so may ultimately depend on the weather. Our scenarios show that failure to ration gas supplies sufficiently this winter would mean that European countries would exhaust stocks by February 2023 if winter temperatures are lower than usual, said Krishna Sapkota, senior associate at data analytics firm Inveris Intelligence. Price volatility at a high level. The price of gas to be paid by European consumers almost doubled between June and the start of September. It shot up to a record high after Russia announced in early September that it would stop pumping gas via the Nord Stream 1 pipeline to Germany. On that Monday, September 5, the benchmark gas price surged as high as €272, $261 per megawatt hour, MWH 30% higher than the closing on the previous Friday. The Dutch futures gas contract for October, meanwhile, has eased somewhat to around €256, which is still almost 400% higher than a year ago. This year's price surge has squeezed already struggling European consumers and forced some industries to even cut production. EU residential and commercial gas demand are about 12% lower, with industrial demand down 30% versus the 5-year average, or 14% versus 2021. Experts from U.S. investment bank Goldman Sachs expect European wholesale natural gas prices to fall from the current level of about €215 per megawatt hour to below €100 by the end of the first quarter of next year, but only if Europe sees typical winter weather conditions, it said in a report, meaning similarly mild temperatures as in previous years. EU to cut gas addiction. In 2021, the EU imported 155 billion cubic meters, BCM, of natural gas from Russia, about 40% of the total it consumed. The bloc's planned gas replacements by the end of 2022, including liquefied natural gas, LNG, renewables, biomethane, solar rooftops, and heat pumps, are about 102 centimeters, according to data from the EU Commission's REPowerEU plan. Currently faced with reduced supply, all EU countries are grappling with lowering their gas demand. At the end of July, the EU agreed on a reduction plan for gas that includes a consumption cut of 15% between August 2022 and March 2023. But lowering consumption enough to ensure stored fuel lasts through the coldest months is a tough call politically and logistically. In May, Brussels already set a storage target in response to Russian gas cutoffs in the energy crisis, with the aim of reaching at least 80% of full storage capacity by November 1st. How long will it last? In a normal year, 85% would cover Europe's winter peak in gas use. Full gas storage could sustain European countries for at best about 3 months, according to the Oxford, UK-based Aurora Energy Research think tank. However, predictions as to how long Europe's gas reserves will last vary. This is due to different temperature expectations and the availability of other sources of energy, for example, nuclear power in France and the possibility of Russia resuming some supplies via Nord Stream 1. Goldman Sachs expects storage facilities to remain at least 20% full by the end of March 2023, while energy research and consultancy firm Wood Mackenzie says an unusually cold winter in the Northern Hemisphere could reduce European gas inventories to 4% of total capacity by March. Meanwhile, not all EU countries have underground storage. Of those that do, 10 of the 27 have surpassed the 80% target by September: Belgium, the Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Portugal, Spain, and Sweden. France and Germany are key. Germany is home to nearly a quarter of the EU's storage capacity, with the gas stored there expected to meet 80 to 90 days of average demand. In 2021, Europe's biggest economy relied on Russia for around 55% of its annual gas supplies. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine, The government of German Chancellor Olaf Scholz introduced a requirement for storage to be 75% full by September 1 and raised the targets for October and November to 85% and 95%, respectively, from 80% and 90%. Surging gas prices have even forced Berlin to put together a rescue package for gas importer Uniper, which has had to buy gas at far higher prices on the market to fulfill its supply contracts. Now, Berlin is acquiring a 98.5% stake in the gas importer, as Russia's gas supply freeze threatens to drive the company into bankruptcy. During a visit of Chancellor Scholz to several Gulf states and Saudi Arabia last weekend, German utility RWE signed a deal with Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, ADNOC, to deliver LNG by the end of December. The deal, which includes a memorandum of understanding for multi-year supplies, will begin with a relatively small amount of 137,000 cubic meters of LNG. Still, it will be the first shipment via Germany's newly built floating gas import terminal at Brunsbüttel near Hamburg. Germany is in a rush to build 2 new LNG terminals to eventually receive up to 12.5 centimeters a year, equivalent to about 13% of the country's gas consumption in 2021, according to data from research firm Enerdata. Scholz has said recently Germany is well placed to get through the winter with enough energy, weather permitting of course. France is also working on contingency plans. French electricity operator RTE and gas network operator GRT Gas have both said reduced energy consumption during the winter will become necessary, but that this will largely depend on whether temperatures are average, cold, or very cold. The fall, however, is likely to pose as many risks as the winter, warned the president of RTE's managing board, Xavier Pachasik. Compared with the 43 terawatt-hours, TWh, of electricity France generated in previous years on average, Pachasik said output is expected to fall to 33 terawatt-hours this year, due to a lower supply of hydroelectric power and the limited availability of French nuclear reactors. In the most likely scenario, about 75% of France's nuclear capacity is expected to be available in January, meaning a significant amount of electricity will have to be imported. In the case of a very cold winter, GRT Gas said it expects a shortfall in gas supply of around 5%, a level it said can be absorbed by reaching the energy-saving objectives set by the authorities. Current weather forecasts for Europe indicate milder and drier weather than usual when the heating season in Europe starts next week, but the best laid plans of mice and men and all that.